Hello there, vinyl community, and hello there, Maggie, also known as 1204Willow. Uh, this is a video for you, and the contest that you have. You wanted us to distract you from the thoughts that you have with your family and the problems you have with your nephew, and I'm very sorry to hear about your nephew, and I hope that he will be okay and that you will be okay, and I know what it's like to want something to distract your thoughts. So it's a perfect moment to do a contest, and I'm going to do my best to distract you and to answer the questions that you have and give some good tip. But I think that the albums I will show is by artists that you already know about. But I'm going to do my best anyway. First question that you have was to name the artists that I think is most overrated. And I have answered that question before, but I'm happy to do it again. There are a lot of artists in the Swedish music business, like Håkan Hellström, that I think is way too overrated. But if we're going to stick to the international artists, I have three artists that I definitely have a hard time listening to. Number one, and I think this will be many of these artists will be some maybe a little disappointment to many of you followers, because it's artists that many of you at vinyl community collect, but I have a hard time listening to them. Number one is Metallica, and it's been ever since I heard the first song I heard with them, Enter Sandman, in '91. I can't stand James Hetfield's voice. I get chill when I listen to it, and it's not by any nice kind of chill, because I think it's so horrible to hear his voice. They're depressive and very boring, in my opinion, rock, heavy metal music. I can't stand Metallica. I never have been, and I don't think I ever will be. I used to say that many artists have some that I usually don't like, at least have one or two songs that are exceptions from the reason I don't like them, but there are no exceptions when it comes to Metallica. I can't say any good with their music, actually. Number two, Creedence Clearwater Revival. I have so hard. I can't stand listening to the voice of John Fogerty. I think Creedence is my total definition of boring music. Boring 60s style of rock music. John Fogerty's boring voice. I have hard time listening to I think hard time listening to Creedence. I think they're dreadfully boring. So every time I hear Creedence, it's close to shutting off the radio. I can survive it because the songs aren't longer than 3 or 4 minutes, but it's very close. And finally, last but not least, AC/DC. And I think it's pretty clear right now that I don't like heavy metal in many types of forms, I think heavy metal is a friend of mine said once that heavy metal was like barbed wire for your soul, and I think a little it's also my motto. I have hard time. AC/DC is maybe one of the worst bands in their style, actually. I can't listen to that singer. It's Angus Young, his name is. I'm not sure. Hearing how he is sounding like drunk crow with the flu. I can I can't stand listening to his voice. Then there goes my limit. I shut the radio off if I hear a AC/DC song at the radio. So the sad thing is that I do like the producers of AC/DC because they're produced by Malcolm Young's brother, I think. Isn't that his brother in Flash in the Pan? Because I like Flash in the Pan very, very much. So it's a little sad that Flash in the Pan is doesn't pick the productions a little bit better, but that is my opinion. So these are three of artists that I have hard time listening to that I think is very overrated. Of course, there are a lot of them. I could have mentioned Lady Gaga. I could have mentioned All Pink, all of these newer artists that I definitely think is overrated. But those are artists that goes in here and out here. I don't even bother to get irate when I hear them because I totally ignore that music. But these are artists that unfortunately, for some reason, have lasted for so long, generations to come, and still people likes them. And I have a hard time listening to them. But people likes them, and I'm a people who respects people's different musical tastes. So. I hope you forgive me, everyone who watches this and who likes these bands, but they are too much for me. Which artists do I think should be lifted up and is important for our next generation? Everybody else. No, but seriously. I also picked three artists here. First of all, Depeche Mode. I think the kind of synthesizer music that Depeche Mode are doing is what I've been listening to for since almost since I started listening to music in the 80s. And I think it's very important that that kind of music is being spared and that people realize how great it is, how great Depeche Mode is, and they have been such an influence for many other synthesizer bands in the future. I think right now it's a favorite band of mine that I mentioned before, Churches, British band, and I really like Depeche Mode, and I think that their music is very important. Number two, still stuck in the 80s, Level 42. I think that if any band is a kind of a, if any band should remind people that the 80s actually aren't all that cheesy and bad as many think it is Level 42, because Level 42 is so funky, they're so great, there are awesome musicians, and I really like, as I said before, I like Mark King's voice, his bass playing, and I definitely think that it's a band that people should listen to much more, and that it should be played much more in radio for people to realize how awesome they are. Number three, and we're leaving the popular music right now and go to jazz. I say Lenny Tristano, the pianist. He was one of the earliest players in the cool jazz style, and today people seems to have totally forgotten about him. He was a guy that at the jazz era in the late 40s and the 50s were mainly for elite of jazz fans. Because he had such a unique style when he took classical jazz songs and turned them into something new, something of his own. You could barely hear the melody, but you hear some phrases of the old song somewhere in his creations, and he's magnificent in my opinion. But he is totally forgotten, and unfortunately he was forgotten already by the time that he died. He died very forgotten and bitter, and he was also blind. And so I think Lenny Tristano should be more played and be reminded for to younger jazz fans in the future how great he was. The final question was records that we have bought in 2014, and like everybody else, I think I will do also a year in review when it comes closer to the New Year's Eve, and like I did in one of my first videos, I'm also going to do a top 6 of my greatest findings this year. So I'm not going to reveal that much about how my greatest findings, but like Carsten Olsen did in his video, I can also mention a few artists that I have discovered a lot this year. Artists that to some people may seem pretty ordinary, but to me were pretty big discoverings when it comes to my newfound interests in 70s music, because I can already say right now 2014 have been the year when the year of the 70s for me, when my interest for 70s music, 70s soul music, 70s pop music have been exploded and been taken to newer heights. So let me give you some example of records. I've shown these records in various vinyl updates, but still is a part of the contest. One artist I have discovered much this year is Thelma Houston, as a part of my new interest of 70s soul music. Thelma Houston before this year were an artist that had okay disco hits, nothing more, nothing less. I didn't care all that much about her. Of course, Don't Leave Me This Way were one of the songs that I've heard with her. And this year I realized how great she was, how good a singer she was, and how great her soul music style was. Some Don't Make Me Pay for Another Girl's Mistake on this album, Any Way You Like It, is really an awesome soul song. I really like that song, and I really like these both records, The Devil in Me and Any Way You Like It. Number 2, Anne Murray, another artist that I have been discovering a lot this year. At least her more commercial side, her more pop music oriented style. I'm not that, as I said many times before, I'm not a country fan, so I haven't been paying much attention to her country music, but her more soft pop music style, I really like it. She has a great, very mature and great voice, and these records, New Kind of Feeling and Together, is awesome records that I found this year, and she's an awesome ballad singer. I really like her style, actually. Also a band that I have discovered pretty late now. I've showed my first finding of this band in my summer findings video for July, so it's pretty new finding. 10cc. 10cc before this year started was a band with 2 songs that I actually have heard with them. One, I'm Not in Love, which is a really good song, and number 2, Dreadlock Holiday, that I have been listening to way too much, and I was so tired of. And being all that tired, I was pretty surprised with myself when I went to a second-hand store and for 50 cents bought Bloody Tourists, and made me realize that this actually is an awesome album. This is really good album. And at the record fair just weeks ago I bought How Dare You also. So I realized that 10cc is a really, really good band that both have traditional awesome melodies and melodies that is very experimental and very, very unpredictable. So it's a band that you never know what they're actually going to do. I really like them very, very much, and I also like Graham Goldman's voice. But I already knew that because he was a part of a great, great 80s band also, Wax, that I liked. Number number four. Also an artist that many of you have discovered a long time ago, and I'm a little bit late, I know, but this was also the year when I, for the first time, started to enjoy Carole King. The awesome musician and singer. I really like her voice, and her melodies is really good. It started in May when I bought her Greatest Hits album and listened to it and realized that this was so relaxing, so really, really good music. Then at the record fair I bought Welcome Home, also really, really good album with different kind of feelings and different kind of styles. Really, really good album. And in Stockholm I also bought Speeding Time from 1983. This one I haven't been listening to yet, so I don't know how she sounded like in the 80s, but I hope that she is just as good as in the 70s, because she is a really, really good singer. She's a really, really relaxing artist that I like very, very much. And last but not least, and a band that is little in the middle of 70s and 80s. It's a band that I discovered through a radio program in Swedish radio that I've heard of at the internet called Eldorado. It's a classic radio show that was very popular in the 80s. And in the early 80s, they played a lot with Sniffing the Tears. And I listened to these programs and realized that this actually is a great, great band who makes such a relaxing and really cool rock music, pop rock music, very relaxing production, very great, great melodies, great lyrics. So eyes itching a bit. Really, really great band. I bought this record first of all, Love and Action. First of all, and such a great album. And then I also bought this one in Stockholm. I haven't been able to listen to this one yet, but it's only the album before, so I think I really suspected that it's a really, really good album, a really awesome album. So Sniffing the Tears I also have discovered big time this year. So it feels so good to be able to discover new artists that you haven't thought of before, that they actually are good. However, if you have walked back 10 or maybe even 20 years and said to me that 2014 you're going to like Carole King, you're going to actually enjoy Thelma Houston, I would have been thinking and then shaking my head that okay, they're pretty good, but I would never buy records with them. But today I have actually realized how good they are. I don't know if that is if that is a sign of me soon in the beginning of next month turning 40, but actually maybe it is an age thing, but I actually, it's fun to discover new things, to actually realize how good things are actually that I have been thinking that they were not all that good before. So with that, I hope that you have been a little distracted, Maggie, and that you have enjoyed my video, and the rest of you also, of course. And until I return next time, I hope that you have a very nice weekend, and so long.